Welcome to the For Real Though Show, the podcast with the purpose for the people. I am your host, Christopher Keith. We are brought to you by Queso What, which is soon to be not only mobile, but brick and mortar. Told you that before. More to come on that later. We're going to give you all of the details so you can get your grub on. So yeah, man. So today's subject, we're going to talk about something that means a lot to me, and I hope you can get something out of it. And that is the power of words. The power of words. When I was a kid, one of the first phrases I remember learning in school or hearing in school was this phrase right here. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And I knew what it was trying to say, especially for kids, because I think I think because kids say a lot of mean things that it was kind of a way of strategy, maybe there was some genius behind this statement. Um, that because kids can say some cruel things because they're kids, to for the regular kid not to take them to heart. Uh, but in reality, words do hurt. They hurt very much. Just as much as they can help, they can hurt, even at a very, very young age. But as society, we have a lot of ways of putting phrases and little slogans together, that don't necessarily add up. Like say, for instance, they say cleanliness is next to godliness. If you really take time to think about that, does that really make sense? And yeah, that doesn't really make sense, does it? And where did you get that from, right? They got one in religious circles in Christianity, that says when the praises go up, the blessings come down. And it sounds really cool, right? It sounds really cool. It sounds like it makes sense. Like if you praise the Lord, then there's a bucket that opens up and some, like God's like a slot machine. Praises go up, hit me, right? But that's not scriptural. It sounds really good, and but words matter. And so if you're going to base your life and believe that these words, then if they're the wrong words, then you could be led on the wrong path. You know what I'm saying? So those are little minor things, but you get the gist. So, back to the sticks and stones, words do hurt. As a matter of fact, overall, words are just ubiquitous, in that they're everywhere, right? And, starts from like even from greetings, salutations, hello, how you doing? You know, they're the gateway to, our communication and how we welcome each other, how we greet each other. Um, how we leave each other, how we conflict with each other, how we love each other, right? How we, inspire, encourage, we can provoke thought, we can ease tension, we can lighten the mood with our words, right? And we can also discourage, tear down, confuse, cast doubt, and devastate people with our words. You know, words say a lot about the individual, who they're coming from. And, so my case today is that you know, most of us, I believe we take our words for granted and we don't understand often how, they're wasteful. They could be wasteful, abusive, dismissive, irresponsible, and we don't understand the potential, of our words, for both the good and the bad. I grew up in a church and a lot of my friends, are people of faith and excuse me, go to church, been to church, what have you. And if you look at like the first chapter in Genesis, according to the Bible, the way the world was created is, in the first chapter, there's seven God says, right? In the first book of Genesis, and it talks about the earth and let there be light, and separating the waters and the land from the waters and the birds and all this. Those were all things that God said. It didn't say he did it. It said he said it. That was how it got started. He said a word. So the very faith principle in that is that words matter because words are what even spoke the world into existence, right? And there are many scriptures in the Bible that talks about words, right? And the power of words. Here's one. I'll just read several off to you. This is in Proverbs 12:14. Wise words bring many benefits. Proverbs 13:3. The one who guards his mouth preserves his life. The one who opens his lips wide comes to ruin. Proverbs 15:1. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger, right? Proverbs 15:4. A gentle tongue is a tree of life. Perverseness, but perverseness in it breaks the spirit. Proverbs 15:28. The heart of the godly thinks carefully before speaking. Proverbs 29:20. Do you see a man who is hasty in his words? There is more hope for a fool than him. That's kind of heavy. A man who is hasty in his words, there is more hope for a fool than him. Because like there's even a saying that says, I forget, this is a true saying that no, even a fool, no one knows who the fool is until he opens his mouth, right? So you could be a stone cold fool. And if you keep your mouth shut and don't say some stupid stuff, then you'll get by. Like you'll walk out of that room and people won't think to themselves, there goes a fool. Um, Here's one, James 1:26. If you claim to be religious but don't control your tongue, you are fooling yourself, and your religion is worthless. So again, look at the emphasis of controlling your tongue, of what you say. Here's another, James 3:3-6. The tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And among all the parts of the body, the tongue is a flame of fire. It is a whole world of wickedness, corrupting your entire body. It can set your whole life on fire. Man, let that sink in for a minute. James 3:10. And so blessings and curses comes pouring out of the same mouth. Here's one, 1 Peter 3:10. If you want to enjoy life and see many happy days, keep your tongue from speaking evil and your lips from telling lies. Uh, when I think about that, you ever heard the script, you ever, not the scripture, you ever heard the saying that somebody's mouth wrote a check that their ass couldn't cash? Yeah. Like I've seen videos. You ever see one of them TikTok or Facebook or Instagram videos where these people are arguing, and you might have like, let's just use an example, the white person, the black person, and they arguing, they at the 7-Eleven, arguing about whatever they arguing about. It's obviously heated, this, that, and the other. Everything's cool. Everybody just talking. It don't mean nothing blah 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 blah, and then all of a sudden, to that white person has to say the N word, they go nigger. As soon as they say that word, bam, instant reaction, instant fisticuffs, instant getting the ass beat, right? So that's that's why I use that scripture because I believe it's true, right? I mean, obviously, the evidence says it's true, right? You go out here and say anything to anybody, and you're gonna get some hands. And in some cases, you might get a knife or you might get some bullets, right? So, uh, there that is. Last scripture we'll use is Psalm 19:14. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. So notice it didn't say, let the meditation of my heart be acceptable first. See, because a lot of people like to say, God knows my heart. And basically, normally when people use that, that means that they really into a whole lot of other raggedy stuff that they do, a lot of raggedy stuff that they say. They don't want to be held accountable for it. They don't want to repent for it. They just want to do and say what they want to do and then put it back to God knows my heart. Well, the scripture says, first, let the words of my mouth, then the meditation of your heart. So basically what it's saying is, hey, uh, bump your mouth, bump your heart, because really what you say out of your mouth comes out of your heart, right? So it starts here and then it comes out there. And there it is. So God knows your heart. You probably just need to take that out your vocabulary because normally it's not used in a way that takes responsibility or accountability for one's actions or one's words. So moving on, but I understand, listen, every just because, we're talking about words and it doesn't mean that every word has to be nice, has to be sweet. There are times, that words have to also be used in conflict, just like they can be used to encourage. And, you know, conflict is inevitable. You know, anytime you have one or two or more, strong individuals, um, you're going to have conflict. I remember, but it's really how you argue and what you say that makes a difference. I remember in a very general sense. I remember I was part of a basketball team, and this was in the early '90s, and I picked everybody on this team, right? Meant a lot to me, and we had a pretty good team. Matter of fact, we were very good. And one time, we were playing this team that I would say wasn't really on the level of talent that we had, and we should have just really blew these guys out. But we didn't. And the reason why is because we were doing what people call playing down to your competition. And so we didn't go out and really execute and take care of our business. We was just really on some bull crap, and not really going after it like we should. And so guys was taking crazy shots, not passing the ball, not getting back on defense, and just taking everything for granted. But it turns out that that might have been the best thing that happened because when we got back to the locker room, there was a lot of pissed off people, a lot of pissed off people. Uh, because it's not everybody was playing on that level, but the majority of us were playing on that level. And so when we got in the locker room, man, hey, it hit the fan. It hit the fan. People's going off. Why you ain't pass the motherfucking ball? Shooting all the motherfucking shots, you know, all kinds of stuff. And it was really heated, extremely heated, and words were just going back and forth. And it was so disturbing to me that it actually like really bothered my spirit because again, I picked all of these guys and they were all, my friends on, differing levels, all of them I had, a level of respect for. And so it bothered me so much, these words going back and forth and stuff, the spirit in them and the vitriol in them, that it really made me start crying. Like I burst into tears, right? Uh, because it was just the energy was as such. But what ended up happening uh is we ended up like becoming a freight train after that and we just ran through the rest of the league until finally we won a championship at the end, and that was like the last close game we had was the championship game. But one of the reasons I believe that worked out even with those words being transferred back and forth is because we kept it basketball. You know what I mean? So we didn't get really personal. We kept it basketball, and even all the critique was keeping it basketball. We didn't talk about nobody's mama. We didn't talk about nobody's character, or anything like that. We kept it, we kept it 100 on the topic at hand. So that brings me to how does one deal with conflict? How do you argue? How do you debate, right? How do you deal with conflict? And how do you work that out? Well, The truth is, you should be direct, we should be honest, and we should be truthful, without being callous or cold-blooded or ruthless. And we all know where that line is, right? And if normally if we keep it to the subject matter, we're going to be okay. You know what I'm saying? We're going to talk about what was said, what was done, how we perceive what was done. And a lot of times you can find out that you could be mistaken. There could be misunderstandings. Uh, but depending on how you talk about those things can just make all the difference. Uh, Redeeming words. What I mean by that is acknowledging other people's words. So if somebody is talking to you and they're expressing things, it takes vulnerability to share, your hurt, your pain, uh, things that bothered you. It takes vulnerability because most of the time when we're hurt, we kind of want to go off to our own corners and, we fight or flight, right? Fight or flight. And I think that most people do a little bit of both. They fight or they fly. Um, Personally, I'm one that, I kind of do a lot of flighting, you know what I mean? Depending on the situation. Those are the closest to me. I think I tend to be more flight. And then those who I don't know, like out in them streets, it tends to be a little more fight, like say if I'm refereeing or something like that. Uh, but you got to know kind of who you are and what your tendencies are. But but that being said, if somebody is talking to me and someone is speaking to me with reason, even if they're being, intense or as long as they're being direct, honest, truthful without being callous, cold-blooded, or ruthless, then I am going to listen to what that person has to say. And, there have been times again that I've had conflicts with people who I care about and they told me something. I'm like, man, thank you for telling me that because if you didn't tell me, if you didn't use your words to tell me, then I never would have known that that was an issue. Or, you know what? That's not even what was going on in my mind. When I said this, what I meant was that, you know what I mean? Or when I did this, my intentions were that, not the way it came off. So you have to honor people when they come to you. That's how you deal with conflict. You can be direct, honest, and truthful, right? Without being a jerk. Again, and then you have to also listen. And then, when that person is speaking words to you, they also have a responsibility to keep it on the subject matter. Not go all over the place and start spazzing out, but just dealing with the subject at hand. And then understanding that, you don't have to say everything all the time. uh Sometimes we use our words too much and we can just go on and on and on and on and on and that's not that again is another form of callousness and ruthlessness because you just keep saying the same stuff over and over again. You're just gonna grind them down to a pulp. Like, okay, I heard you the fifth time, right? So you don't have to do that. Um and and again, like I said, when you talk about the heart in your mouth, you can feel things in your heart. Actually, I would say this: you can feel things in your emotions or in your mind. It don't have to necessarily be your heart. And you can think to yourself, "This some bullshit." You know what I mean? But it doesn't mean that you have to say it. Especially if you don't have all the information and you don't want to hurt this person. I remember when I had a therapist, Miss Francis, God bless her, rest in peace, uh, who we were talking about relationships and intimate relationships, and she said, when you're in an intimate relationship with someone, the foundation of that always has to be your friendship, and that's what you have to keep at the core of it, because there are certain things that you will say, again, going back to words, there are certain things you may say to a lover, a spouse, that you would never say to a friend. Um, and I thought that that was so true. It was so like I never forget that. And I've been in situations where, I've been in intimate relationships where, I knew when the relationship was over just based on what the person said to me. Um, I remember I dated a girl years ago, and she used to always just go off, and talk outside of her neck, And when I would t tell her about that, hey man, your words, man, they just be cutting, like and they're unnecessary, they just extra cold. And she would say to me, well, I can't help it. I can't help it. It just comes out. And I remember saying to her, I remember saying to her, I'm like, you know what? You have a job. You have coworkers. You have a boss. And you know what? Have you ever been pissed at your boss? Yeah. You been pissed at your coworkers? Yes. Did you cuss them out? Okay, you didn't cuss your coworkers out. You certainly didn't cuss your boss out, right? Okay. So the question is, in our situation, how much do I need to pay you so that you will guard your tongue and not just say anything to me like I have a tail or something? You want to know what her answer was? That was her answer because she didn't have one. And, but the way I felt, and the way I learned is that no, the reason they said those things to you, the way they said them to you, is because that's the way they felt. That's the way they felt. That's the way they saw you. And because there was their reality in, so they didn't care to speak affirmatively, directly, honestly, without speaking ruthlessly, right? Um, and I tell you what, the best way to lose credibility, friends and lovers, you know, is to dismiss them. You know what I'm saying? Take them for granted and just say anything. Opposite is true. The best way to honor someone is to listen to them, is to absorb their honest and heartfelt words. So, again, when someone comes to you and they got something to say, it's a plea, excuse me, it's a plea for your ear, for your understanding, for your empathy, then you should offer that. Even if you don't quite understand why. That you know, it's easy to do if you care, you know. Not just about that person, but your own standard of who you decide you want to be in this life. Okay. So, and so, we just talked about the negative part, but again, it's also the positive. When I played sports, you know, I was more of a kind of a guy who was, if you encouraged me, and I knew you was in my corner, then all the words you said made a big difference on whether my performance. You know what I mean? I have my own standard, but at the same time, you know, um, a person even can get on my case. Like if I knew a person cared about me and they have invested in and put words into me already that were edifying, that were full of confidence and love, then even when they critiqued me, I could take that because because I had those other things in the bank. So I knew I didn't have to take those things personally, you know? Uh, so yeah, that makes a difference. And just you know, words are like currency. They're like currency. And to the person that you're speaking to, it's like a bank. You putting that stuff in the bank. Are your words encouraging? Are they beautiful? Are they edifying? Do they speak positive? Do they speak life? Right? And if you speak in life, then yeah, you can have some times where some things might not sound right. But you know what? I got this life over here that was already invested in me and it's growing. It's even got some interest in it. You dig? Uh, so I hope you understand that. I hope you understand that. Words are so important that they ban books, that they're banning books. Words are so important that they ban in books about Black history, about, struggles that people have had to deal with, because they don't want the stories told. Think about, like, even in these tech platforms now, they don't want fact checkers. You know what I'm saying? Because they want the words that are lies to permeate society. Uh, the reason why they kill Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, it's not because of what they did. It's because of the words. It's because of what they were saying. And those words were getting into people's minds and hearts and imaginations and thinking about what's possible, right? That's why they killed him. You understand? Um, and so it is with us. You know, I know people, I talked to someone recently who told me about something that a guy said to her in school, when she was very young. And to this day, that still reverberates back to her, and it still messes with her confidence. I saw a kid the other day on TV, on CBS Sunday Morning, one of my favorite shows, as you know. And there was a kid, he's wears glasses and they're rainbow glasses, right? So I don't forget how old he is, but in my recollection, probably somewhere between 9 and 11, you know. And so he's got these glasses that he wears and they're rainbow glasses. But like he's not gay or trans or anything like that. He just liked the rainbow colors. So, this one kid at school bullied him and, called him a faggot and told him he should go kill himself. So the boy was going to kill himself. And thankfully his parents found out about it. He was really bad because he was really depressed and he ended up spending 2 weeks in a mental hospital getting psychiatric treatment. This young kid. And when he got out, his mom had rolled like a little post, asking just for people to come ride by the house and just say some wave to him and give him some encouragement. And it turned out pretty much the whole town came out for him. And it was a beautiful thing, but I felt so bad because, man, those were words. Sticks and stones may break your bones. Words will kill you because they can. And just like it took words to put him in that position, it also took words of many, 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 many more people to restore him back to himself and to a healthy place. When I was 14 years old, and listen, man, I left a whole family, a whole family. I left my mother and my sister because a man in my house for 7 years used his words to humiliate me, to discredit me, to dismiss me. He used his words never to encourage me. It was always some raggedy and nasty to say. And I, as a 14-year-old, left my entire family. Like I didn't care where I had to go. I had to get away from there because of this person's words. Uh, and the fact of the matter is, even today, words, words can draw me to you, or you get enough of them. You get enough of them that are negative. I don't think it's just for me, but I will speak for myself. If I get enough negative, raggedy words over and over and over again, comes a point where you're just done, where the person has no more credibility in your life. They can't tell you anything anymore. You don't trust them. You're not going to open up to them because when you do, they crush you. When you do, they diminish you. When you do, they dismiss you. They make you feel like, hey man, you just talking stupid, you know? Um, and so to this day, that's the way I am. And I don't think many of you are any different. You know what I mean? I think some people like to argue and fuss and stuff all the time, and they just let anything come out of their mouth. Uh, but I would say that's a very unhealthy person. And because they are unhealthy, then they don't know how to express themselves. They don't know how to express their pain, their frustration, their hurt. They don't know how to ask for the love that they desire. So therefore, it's always, again, fight or flight. So in this case, it's always fight. And trust me, a lot of people use words to fight and to say the thing that they know will get to you. See, I've known people who said things to me personally that they knew that thing would get to me. And in turn, trust me when I tell you, there are times, many, many, many times, when I could have said that thing to a person in a certain situation that could have gutted them, totally gutted them. I'm smart enough to know how to do that. I keep enough receipts to know how to do that. But I refuse to do that because I will not be that person, not to someone I love. I'd rather just walk away. You know, now if it's somebody else out here in these streets, as dangerous as that might be, because again, I got my own database. I got my own database and own system, if you will, of damage from words. And so therefore I can pop off. I can react, you know. But most of the time, man, 9.5 times out of 10, man, even in them situations, I'm going to, whatever I say, I'm probably gonna mean, put it that way. I'm gonna say what I mean. Uh, but I still, even then, I try to keep it in the context of where we are, of what the situation is. And I don't try to take it way off the railings because again, that could put your life in danger. And most of all, what it does is it makes you like sick because it's like it's poison. It's poisoning you. And I just don't want to live like that. So, in wrapping this up, I just want to encourage you, my beautiful listeners, my beautiful subscribers, please subscribe, like, comment, share. Let me know how you feel about these things, and um, so we can have a conversation. That'd be great. But my encouragement to you is to observe your words and examine them daily. Start thinking about what you're saying. How much time you spend on bullshit gossiping or things that don't edify, talking about things that don't amount to nothing. Yeah, it's a time for small talk and chatter. And, like, it's just time for all of that. I think those are all expressions of humanity. Uh, but, if you always got something raggedy to say to people, if you always got something judgmental to say, you know, you need to examine that. And I would ask you to just start paying attention to that. And I'm not telling you nothing that I'm not going to do myself, because charity starts at home, right? Okay. Number two, pay attention to the words of others. There's a wealth of information in them, and that is whether they're telling you something, useful or not useful. Um, you can listen to people, and that'll let you know a lot about where they are, what their intentions are. Uh, like, I'll give you an example. I work with a guy alongside a guy today who he just talk. Everything like he can't let a space, he can't let sound, like he can't let silence go. You know what I mean? He gonna have to fill it up. And what that tells me about that person is, hey, they really love to express themselves, and maybe silence bothers them, and maybe they want to be heard. Something they want to be heard. You know what I mean? And There are reasons for that. So there's information in that. There's information in that. I could have told the man, shut up, you know what I mean? But I didn't. Because again, that would be cruel. Um, and so I just take it for the information. Take it for the information. You'll learn a lot from people when you listen. When it comes to people you love, listen to them and honor the words. You know what I'm saying? Honor the things that they're telling you when people are being vulnerable, when people are expressing themselves, when they're giving you their hurts and pains. If you offended them, listen to them, empathize, learn where they're coming from, because those words, it takes a lot of energy for someone to come to you and say, hey, man, I've been thinking about this and, I want to tell you something that just bothered me. That takes vulnerability. And when someone comes to you with hurt and pain, when they feeling rejected or whatever, and you cut them off and you say crazy stuff, man, you really do damage to the person. And at some point, you're gonna lose that person. You're gonna lose them. Um, Always, again, there's nothing wrong with being direct. You should be direct. You should be honest. You should be intentional and understand when I say intentional, what is your intent with these words you are saying? Know what your intent is. Is your intent to hurt somebody, to really strike at them and get them back? Or is your intent to be hurt? Sometimes I would say things direct in a conflict. I would say things direct. It would be totally uncompromising. Ain't no fluff to it, this, that, and the other, because now we are at that point where I have to say it this way because my other forms of communication, where they were more tender or, had a little more gravy to it, they were not reciprocated. Like the point was not received. So therefore, I had to be more straightforward. Boom. This is it. No fluff. Nothing else. This is it right here. These are the facts. Boom. And sometimes you have to do that. But again, I understood what my intent was. So therefore, that if I know my intent, then I know what my words are going to be directed towards that intention. And if I'm honest with myself and in that intention, then I can stay within my own integrity. You understand what I'm saying? And finally, man, if you're the type of person who has challenges in this area of your tongue, of your mouth, then seriously work on it, man. If because we all want to be heard. We all want to be heard. We all want to be celebrated. We want to be listened to. And to listen to someone, um, to validate someone, there's so much you can do to repair a breach, to repair a person, to restore someone, just simply by the things you say. And sometimes by the things you don't say. So that's my word for today. Hope you got something out of it and stay encouraged. Um, we'll see you next time on the For Real Though show. Like, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Tell us about it, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.